Dave Fleming, he's had enough. Dave Fleming, in the way Dave Fleming can, was very critical of the Giants this morning. He talked about how they needed some edge. Maybe they're too comfortable as a team. They need some edge. Maybe they are a little soft. But here's what he had to say about signing free agents, because we know Farhan, what he said before the season, blaming the city, the taxes, the politics, the logistics of not being able to attract free agents here. And you got Larry Baer with the light bulb comment, which I'll never, ever get over. How can you run your organization and basically call fans stupid and say, oh, the fans finally got it. They wisened up and said, oh, yeah, we got Mania and Stripling and everything. You basically called the fans dumb. But here's what Fleming had to say about signing free agents and whether or not the Giants are a destination or whether or not their reputation is still intact. Here's what Fleming had to say about that. Spinoni, roll it.
Anybody about taxes and California and all this. I mean, the biggest stars in sports are in California, and some of them are right here in San Francisco. So I do not believe that should be an impediment to building a championship baseball team.
It's interesting that he says that, because that's clearly him being. I am making this connection. I'm not saying that this is what he's saying. I'm making the connection. Clearly, he didn't appreciate some of the Farhan quotes about the area being part of the reason why you couldn't lure free agents. You just can't run a business in a community and expect that community to support and consume your business and basically take a dump on them.
Can you imagine Bob Myers or Mark Dunleavy Jr. come up to Joe Lacob's office saying, I'm trying my best, but, I think we have a problem with the city, man.
Well, could you imagine?
The city is limiting me on who I can sign and who I can't sign.
Forget sports. Could you imagine Original Joe's? You know the Dugan family. You've seen them all over. They're a great family. Could you imagine them saying, we really tried here in Daly City and in North Beach, and it's just we can't do it. You people don't support us enough. We can't do it. Like, name me a business that tells their consumers you're not cutting it. It's because of you that we can't survive. Yeah. I mean, come on.
It's unbelievable.
It really, forget it was sports. Business.
It was so tone deaf at the time. And then when you think about it, 6 months later.
It did not age well.
I keep going. And then Larry Baer doubling down, basically saying, the light bulb went off on the fan base here. They're like, oh, yeah, we can win with Sean Mania and Ross Stripling. Nobody said that. Nobody believed that. Not after watching Sean Mania serve one up to Bryce Harper in the NLCS. It looked like hot garbage for the Padres last season, and still gave him $15 million player option. The Toronto Blue Jays, keep going back to this. Why do teams let a player go? Before when you're one of your teams, the Nine, even with Charvarius Ward, I'm thinking, boy, the Chiefs, why did they let Charvarius Ward go? Is there something up there?
Well, they couldn't afford him.
They couldn't afford him. Yeah. So I get that.
It's different.
It is different.
It's different.
You can't afford him. You're playing a quarterback. Okay, whatever. And they draft well. They believe in their draft process. They had a young secondary last year. Didn't hurt them in the Super Bowl in the second half.
No.
But why did the Blue Jays really let Ross Stripling go?
That one really bugs you, doesn't it?
It's
an easy microcosm for everything bigger that's going on with the team.
Exactly.
It's a great point.
And when you sell that on the fan base and basically call us dumb and say, oh, they've now smartened up as to why we signed Sean Mania and Ross Stripling. But you basically told the consumer that they weren't hip to it because they weren't intelligent.
Enough.
Yeah, you're not intelligent enough to understand these moves.
The Cardinal fan is considered a very intelligent fan, right? Don't we? When we talk about they're good fans. They're intelligent. Would they ever sell it to their fan base that way?
No.
You guys are too dumb to understand that Arenado's going to be a baller.
No.
They just know. You know what I mean? The thing that bugs me more than anything is that I think we've been just fans, the front office, media, we have been obsessing about free agency. And to me, free agency is one of the many aspects to team building.
Yep.
Now, this team had to put an emphasis on free agency because they weren't developing. Okay? And when you're not developing, you don't have trade pieces. When you're not developing, you're not cultivating from within and bringing people up who can help your organization. But when I think about Brian Sabean, and everyone goes, well, he inherited Bonds. He did. He also traded away one of the most popular Giants of all time in Matt Williams, and everyone thought it was a horrific decision, and he got himself Jeff Kent. Well, that's not all he did. He also made shrewd trades for guys like Jason Smith. He also brought in very very big free agents around those guys, like an Ellis Burks, like a Reggie Sanders.
The most underrated trade he made was for JT Snow.
For Allen Watson, one of the great trades.
JT Snow became a fixture at first base.
Exactly. Think about when they lost Melky Cabrera later on. Right. They made a shrewd trade for Hunter Pence, who ended up being one of the all-time Giants. Mm-hmm. And I think about
all-time lovable Giants.
I know. I think a lot about those 3 championships because people are like, well, I mean, look, you just get into the playoffs, anything can happen. The hallmark of those early teams, okay, not 14 because they ran out of pitching, and they were a different team. They hit better. 12 and 10. They had 3 premier studs who everyone in baseball would trade for.
Right.
In that rotation.
So when you talk about team building, and you say free agency is one aspect of it. Yes, free agency is kind of to put the cherry on top of what you built, right?
Yes, or it jumpstarts you in the way Bryce Harper jumpstarted Philly.
But they had some built-in guys in Reese Hoskins, Aaron Nola.
They traded for JT Realmuto from the Miami Marlins.
So they had a couple pillars to at least entice Bryce Harper to go there.
That's a good point.
We don't have any pillars right now.
No.
But when I think about the great teams like the Warriors and the Niners, a lot of people say Steph and Dre. They forget they were drafted here. They groomed them. They developed them. They helped them. And Draymond Green wasn't supposed to be the player he is today.
What about David Lee? You're not even referencing.
Right.
David Lee was a shrewd trade where they overpaid in real time and then overpaid him in money.
Right.
But we have forgotten how important that was to jumpstarting that entire original. Like, I know Steph is. I'm not diminishing Steph.
No doubt.
But the David Lee trade was a big one. The Bogut trade was huge. A big one.
It was huge. But your pillars,
yes,
your main cogs,
I agree,
were drafted.
I agree.
You know, the 49ers, they're drafting very, very well. Brock Purdy, drafted. Debo, drafted. Ayuk, drafted. Kittle, drafted. You make a move for Juszczyk, said, you know what? He fits our system. We may overpay at the fullback position, but we need him. We need him for the style of football we play. You think about Banks now. You think about Burford now. Even McGlinchey, he served his purpose. He was drafted.
Yeah.
You look at this defensive line, Armstead, drafted by the previous regime, but they kept him around. Bosa obviously drafted. Fred Warner, Drake Greenlaw, Hufanga. And then you make shrewd moves around the secondary. Okay, we drafted Lenore. Let's add in Tarvarius Ward. We need to fix something. We don't have it in-house. Let's go out-of-house and spend some money here. Even with D Ford, this is the style of football we want to play. We had the ammunition to trade for it. But the most part, what we're saying here is those championship teams with the Giants, you had a lot of drafted players. A lot of homegrown players.
Absolutely.
The Niners, you got a lot of homegrown players. That is the foundation of your team. And right now, the foundation with the Giants just isn't there. It just isn't there.
We all agree Barry Zito was a bad signing, right?
Terrible.
But when you listen to these guys talk back about their career, Sanchez, Vogelsong even to a degree, Matt Cain, Tim Lincecum, a lot of those guys are like, I learned a lot from Barry Zito. Now, you overpaid. It wasn't the greatest contract. I'm not here to pretend that him winning a couple playoff games means that the entire contract was worth it. But there are times in life where you overpay for something to elevate others.
Yeah.
And you're overpaying. You know it. I see a lot of Giants fans like, well, so thank God they didn't sign Correa. And it's like, all right, it's not that Correa was going to be a superstar in the sense of Barry Bonds where he's carrying your organization for 2 decades. But what if Correa elevates the waters in the boat in the harbor and you go get another guy in free agency next year? Or there's a guy who's available in a trade and Francisco Lindor wants to play alongside Correa. That's the part I think people are missing.
I look at it differently here. All right, Correa was part of that Astros team last year that won the World Series, correct?
No, that was Pena. They got rid of him.
They got rid of him the year before.
But before, 2017 he was. He was a big part
Correa,
of elevating the Astros.
Right. Wait, I thought this was the first year for
No,
Correa.
He was in Minnesota on a 1-year deal. He had a 1-year deal in Minnesota.
He sure did.
They brought Pena up. He was
I'm my bad. That's my fault.
Yeah.
But what I was going to get to is Correa, from my knowledge, has been a great tutor for some of those youngsters.
Absolutely.
A great leader. When I hear him speak, especially after the cheating scandal and everything, and he was very outspoken about it, I say, wow, this guy's got some leadership qualities that this organization desperately needs. They desperately need leadership. They don't have leadership from the manager right now.
Yeah.
They definitely don't have leadership from upstairs. And so now we're all bickering on air about whether or not Mike Yastrzemski or Tyro Estrada or Wilbur Flores are good enough to speak up in the clubhouse. At least somebody is speaking up in the clubhouse. Is my counterpoint to it. At least somebody is. And you know what? On this team in 2023, Wilbur Flores does deserve to speak up. He deserves to have a voice in that clubhouse, considering what he's done on the field. He's been asked to play everywhere. Learn first base, play third,
He barely
play
played
second.
for a month, and he's going to hit 25 home runs.
So,
No, I'm with you on that. I do think, though, that they've become so risk averse and they're afraid of signing a bad contract. It's inevitable. Malcolm Smith was a horrible contract for the Niners.
Yep.
You know, Quan Alexander wasn't a great, draft pick. But when you're that low, you need to overpay and take some swings.
Pierre Garçon.
Pierre
About
Garçon's
him.
a great call.
You
But
know?
he played like 7 games.
Barely. I think he scored 1 touchdown. That was against the Raiders on that Thursday night game, if I'm not mistaken.
You have to overpay at times to elevate the entire harbor.
And the fact is, they didn't try to overpay for Aaron Judge. Now,
Lift
Aaron
the
Judge has
tide.
had a rough year, but you lowballed him, and the Padres come over the top in the last minute, and all of a sudden they're second fiddle because they wanted to offer $400 million, which I always thought, you know what, you're the Giants right now, you can't sign anybody. How about you start at 370, 360, 350? And there's so many people that are in the pockets of these organizations saying, you can't pay this, you may overpay for that, blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? It's not our money. And ownership and front offices, they dictate what type of value you have. If they want to pay that money to get premium players, and so be it, go pay them.
You know why people overpay for Starbucks coffee? It's not because it's delicious, right? Why is it, B? It's super convenient, and we're lazy, and you have no problem overpaying there. But heaven forbid your favorite sports team slightly overpays for somebody, and it doesn't end up being the greatest contract of all time.
You know, we get on Joe Lacob for Kelly Oubre Jr., and Joe Lacob sat here in the studio and admitted, I made a mistake, but I get what he was trying to do. I get what the Warriors are trying to do. Klay Thompson just went down. Shoot, we don't have a 2-guard.
Exactly.
We're trying to make the playoffs again. Who's the best option out there? And we're all wrong about it, but I get the thought process.
Well, had they not made a move at all, I don't even think they get close to that playing game.
And people are irate that they didn't make a move to replace Klay Thompson.
Exactly.
People were still ticked off that they didn't make a move at the deadline that season. Were you really going to pay for Evan Fournier at that deadline? No.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Wow, Evan Fournier.
So the point is, to this whole process, what Flem said about California taxes, he doesn't want to hear about it. He doesn't want to hear about, hey, man, the logistics, the yard, this and that. When everybody wants to be a Laker, they still pay the same taxes we pay. The Sacramento Kings are now starting to get some guys, right?
I mean, yeah, they are. I'm surprised they're not in on Dame. I think Fox and Dame would be a very interesting combo. Do I sound absurd?
Yeah, I think so.
I like the small guard lineup.
Yeah, Dame needs a ball in his hands.
That's your problem,
So does
right?
Fox.
I just think Fox is so good.
He is so good. I would let Fox do his own thing with that team. Me personally. But Sacramento would say no to Dame. They'd be jacked up about it. They would. But and a lot of people on YouTube and the Comcast Business Text line agree with this, that you get a president of baseball operations who comes out and says, yeah, it's hard for me to sign guys because of the city and the politics and logistics of it. Then if you knew that was the case, why'd you take the job in the first place? I get it. It's a lifetime opportunity. But seriously, if you knew that was going to be a problem, why are you in this position? Step down. Step down. Nobody. If I'm an owner of a team and your business analogy is on point, why are you here? If you can't recruit free agents, like, can you imagine DOFC saying that in the Boston Red Sox?
No, he would never say that. He would never say that.
That dude went out there to sign Manny Ramirez, and it still wasn't enough for that fan base.